Hi there, it's Riikka Kovasin here with some art journaling today. Let's hope you can see and hear me, so I'll wait up a second because of the delay that if everything is working, if you are seeing and hearing me okay. So if everything is okay, then give me a thumbs up. Hi Tammy! And well, just write if if everything is working. Hi Patricia! Thank you for joining. We are doing some art journaling today, and you get to decide if we're working on light or a darker surface. Let me pull these up. Hey Sato! Hi Tanya! Hi Tiffany! Oh, lovely! There's so many of you. Hi! Can hear and see perfectly. Perfect. And Natalie is here to help to mod. Sorry, let's try to do that. Yeah. So if you have any questions, just type them in and then either she will or then I will later answer all of those. We're just doing an art journal page today, and I'm sharing a little bit tips about stamping or stamps, how you can incorporate those. It's kind of going with my frugal approach that seems to be the thing, especially in this moment. So I think, hey Linda! Hi Lila! Thank you so much for joining. Hi Linda! So let's start with the question. Do you want the light surface or the dark one? They are exactly the same technique, just different background color. So which one you prefer? The dark one, which is going to be dark blue because I'm working with Darcel A4 pad, but light or dark? There's just one difference between the two. We're layering. Dark, please. Okay, 1 vote for dark. Dark, 2 votes. Light, okay, first one. Dark, 3. Dark, 4. The light, 2. It's getting closer. I'll wait a couple of more votes. Dark one, please. And then I'll guess it's going to be the dark one because it has 5 and this one has 2 at the moment. The light, oh, getting closer. Well, if we have time, I can do the both. Let's see how it goes, but let's start with the dark one. Then, so here's something we're doing. There's not that many elements, or not that many products, let's say, in this one, because most of the elements or the embellishments are stamped. I'm showing you how to make your own washi tape, and then there's just mixed media layers in the background. Okay, now that didn't focus. Yeah, but let's get going. There's no also light versions, so let's hope that I have time to make actually the both. Let's see how it goes. So like I said earlier, I'm working on the Darcel collection, and it's perfect if you prefer light or dark because it has the both. So let me just grab that one for the light background, and then let's try that one for the dark one. So this is the Darcel A4 pad. If you have 12 by 12 or even smaller, you can just, depending on the size, cut it smaller or then add a couple of different versions to your page to make it fit. I'm working now on one of the new Thinnaber albums with the light pages, but I actually love the teeny tiny one with the craft pages. That's something I've been mostly grabbing when I'm doing art journaling nowadays. And you can see how I measure. If you want, you can actually take a ruler and measure the page so everything fits nicely, but I'm mostly kind of just eyeballing it. Maybe that way. Making a little mark with my fingernail to the paper and then finding the mark. Sometimes it's a bit difficult. Let me try to find it. I guess it's somewhere there. Well, it's a bit short, but it's okay. We can work with it. And then the same thing. With pattern paper it's easier because then I can just use some line or element as my measuring tool. Which one? I think I'm going to use those roses, so let's trim a little bit off here. Naturally, you don't have to use a brand new A4 sheet to make the background. If you have smaller pieces, you can just adhere them to your journal and work on that. So I guess by the time I was counting, the dark one had more votes, so let's do that one first. I'm just using double-sided tape to adhere this. If you have smaller pieces and you're building the background with those, you can naturally use Thinnaber's line, the soft matte or soft gloss gel as well, because they are perfect for collaging. But then, depending what you're layering on top, if you're using the gels, they are not ideal surfaces for watercolor, which I'm then using on top of these papers, but there's a handy solution with just clear gesso. But double-sided tape, that's kind of a quick way to adhere paper to the journal. If I then move, you weren't supposed to see those. So let's adhere this one, and I'm trying to do them side by side so you see the both, because one of my points for this live was, well, using stamps, because I love stamps and they are such a handy tool to create your own backgrounds or embellishments or well, almost anything, titles, but also how much the color affects your creation. Like I said earlier, the two pages are done almost the same way. There's just one step, which I'm doing first for the dark one, that differs between the two, but otherwise they are just the same. So it kind of shows you how much the color affects to the mood of the page. So for the dark one, I'm adding a little bit of white gesso, but as you can see, I'm trying to keep the layer really thin. So I'm kind of applying and then removing it at the same go with the silicone brush. This is just because when I'm adding ink to the page, and I'm not using white or embossing, for example. So if I have such a dark background, I'm afraid that nothing will show. So I'm kind of creating just a little hint of background or lighter color. Hi, Billy. Sorry, got distracted. So I'm creating a lighter background for my focal point. So going with the same composition. I even did the 2 pages, the light and the dark one, with the same composition, just to kind of show you the effect of the color. But as with white, I don't have to use gesso on top. If you want more playtime, because paper absorbs the watercolor, for example, immediately, then if you want more playtime with color, use clear gesso or white gesso. But white, because there's the white pigment, it's always covering some, whereas the clear gesso, you can see everything through it. But it gives you more kind of open time because it's a primer. It kind of seals the paper so the watercolors don't absorb into it right away. Then a quick layer before actually starting stamping. I'm using the unicorn paste and one of the new oriental wall. Oh, actually, I think I used vintage wallpaper in the other ones. I picked up the wrong stencil. But, well, you see the thing anyway because the procedure is the same. I'm just mixing this a little bit because there are some heavier particles that tend to kind of sunk to the bottom, even though it's a sturdy gel, as you can see. So they tend to go to the bottom of the jar, so every now and then it's good to kind of go through it. And I'm using the gel just through the stencil. This is not such a how to say, high impact layer because the gel will dry clear and it's only kind of the sparkle that it creates to the page. But as it's a gel, so it resists the watercolor I'm adding on top, so you really can't see that much as now. But when I add the watercolor, it's resisting the pattern. The name of the gel, it's unicorn paste. So it's perfect for wintry stuff, for example, because it's glimmery and icy. But it's also lovely to add, well, kind of any kind of texture. I did a dark project with it, using its kind of a starry sky kind of effect. Because what you see white now, it dries clear, so it's only just the glimmery effect. If you don't have this product, you can mix something similar using 3D gel and glitter. But this one has lovely mica flakes, different sizes of kind of glitter. There's the bigger, let me try to show you, bigger chunks, and also teeny tiny glitter, so it's really nice and sparkly. I have a bucket of water underneath my table, so I just threw the stencil in there because it's a gel, so it will stick to everything, including your stencil. So you really need, especially if it's a stencil with small openings, put it to the water immediately so your stencil will stay clear, or better still, clean it right away. But I'm not going to clean it at the moment, so I'll just toss it to the water. So as you can see, the same thing, but even the paste looks different on different surfaces, light and the dark. Now these need to dry for a while, and in the meanwhile I can do some stamping and babble about stamping. If you have any questions about stamping, please just share them with us, and I will try to watch the comments if there is. But if I miss anything, Natalie is here. Sharon is here. Hi, Sharon. So any of us can answer you, or then I go always through the comments later on. But a couple of things. These are my older journals. So in this page, I've used stamping in the background, which is the most common way for me to use stamps. They create an interest and guide the eye in to the focal point. I also made my own little kind of sticker styled, or my title for the page, using just a script stamp. Then there's the embellishments that are also stamped. And then I made my own kind of washi tape with stamping. I'm doing those all, but the stencil is Finneburst, yeah. The one I've used here, I think it's called Vintage Wallpaper, but now I used Oriental Wallpaper, I think. Let me check. Oriental Wall. Yeah. Here is an example of a different kind of stamps, but I've even created a patterned paper. So if you just have the patience to do that, you can use stamps to create your own papers. Here I've used them the way I usually use my stamps, kind of creating interest around the photo, leading the eye into places. This is actually a online workshop piece. Then here's something I created for Prima earlier. Again, many of the layers are done using stamps. Just stamped the roses, cut them out, and did a whole lot of layering just using stamps. So enough about babbling, let's continue. So let's do the washi tape thingy first. There's not that big of a trick to it. It's just painter's tape. There should be an end here. With two widths. This one is smaller. I thought to try that one out as well. And I'm adhering it to a piece of plastic. Anything that you can then get the painter's tape, masking tape out of. And then the other width. This is just easy peasy lemon squeezy. So if you're looking for the perfect washi tape for your make and you don't have the right color, but you have right ink color, or you have right watercolor even might stick to this, so then you can make your own and kind of making everything matchy, especially if you use the same ink or color in your project otherwise, so everything kind of goes together. This one is the permanent ink. Prima has two types of ink in the color philosophy line. There's the inks that are kind of reactive to water, and then the permanent ones. I'm using the black permanent one. So as you can see, nothing that groundbreaking here. I'm just stamping on top of the masking tape, and then I have a lovely masking tape that has a print, vintage print. Naturally you can mix the stamps. If you want it to have kind of more eclectic feel, then use, for example, script stamp and some dots and whatever, like different stamps on the same. I'm just using one, and well, script goes with anything. And as it's a non-absorbing surface, it's better to give it a really quick dry, so it will stay better. If you would want to color it, I would recommend then maybe first doing the color with the permanent inks and then stamping on top, or doing the pattern with the permanent inks and then using the water soluble inks to color on top. So it's really easy. Then I picked these are daily stamps to go with my page. Kind of they have the same vintage feel, and also I love the typewriter, and as well I'm using a typewriter as my backing to the focal point, so that seemed appropriate. I'm using just the same light paper I have already in the light journal. Any kind of light paper will do. You can even use kind of scraps of paper, and instead of tossing them, I'm not sure if you even toss your little scraps of paper, but you can turn them into embellishments and kind of explore with using plain paper and sticky backed paper, for example. Then you can have your own stickers and pattern paper. Again, like with the two pages, light and dark color, if you use a pattern underneath the stamp, it looks totally different than just using it on top of whitish or like light surface. And I'm using the same black ink to stamp these all, but I also do have sepia for the light page and midnight blue for the dark one. So just by changing the color of the embellishment as well might do wonders. Let's try one of the typewriters in blue and then in the sepia tone. Yeah, even though I just same stamp, different color, totally different look. Using stamps to make your own embellishments, kind of mixed with some purchased ones, it's kind of making everything again coherent. I think that's the word, matchy-matchy. Because then you can incorporate the same ink to the background of the page and to the foreground by making your own little embellishment or saying or detail. I'm all in for kind of mixing something self-made with something purchased, because that kind of gives the project character. Oh, sorry about the focus. Okay, now it's better. Let's cut these out, and by the time I've done that, I hope the paste is somewhat dry. I could use my heat tool to dry the paste, but I try to steer away from using the heat tool with any gel medium, because they tend to boil so easily, and that affects to the total look of the layer. If you want something like crocodile skin look, a bit leathery, bubbly, kind of really textured, then by all means use a heat tool and boil the gel. But if you want a smooth surface, then it's easier to just let it dry. Usually they are really fast drying because they are acrylic based, so they are fast in drying, depending on the layer. Naturally, if you have a thick layer, it will take a longer time than a thin layer. And well, you can probably use heat tool better than I, because I'm impatient and I put it to full throttle, and then I end up boiling the gel, and I don't want that look for this project. So unfortunately you now need to see me cut a little bit and babble. I'm hoping that's enough. Let's see if we can move to something a bit more interesting. I did this one first. Almost done. Let me try to finish it with this one. Still wet. Hopefully that's dry enough for us. Then I'll add the watercolor on top. And the gel is going to resist it. For the light ones, I went with kind of a tea-tone, so I'm mixing a little bit of orange and red to the brown one. Maybe a little bit of more orange. This is a bit like blah. Yeah, nicer color. And I'm again using my brush almost tilted. It's not straight on, but I'm using kind of the side of the brush and just applying the paint, and then some here, as there's going to be a little balancing composition. So you can't see the pattern there, but you can see it here because of the resisting effect on the gel. And then some splashes, because I can't finish a project without those. Like so. Then let's move this one aside and see what is happening with the dark one. Well, it's easier to see which parts are dry and which are not on top of the dark one. As you can see here, they are dry because it's totally clear and just the sparkle. And where it's white, it's still wet. I just want white, little dry on the surface. On the inside it can then dry overnight. Let's again hope it's dry enough. Exactly, Magdalena. Splashes are a must when you're doing mixed media. Well, if you don't like them, it's not. But I can't finish a single project without splashes. To me, they are kind of perfect way to mask the different surfaces, like the untreated area to the treated area, because I hardly ever, as you can see here, treat all of the paper, but more like concentrate underneath my focal point. So then sometimes it looks a bit, how do you say, you need kind of transition between the two, otherwise it looks a bit funny, maybe. For this one, I'm trying to mimic the color underneath, so I'm mixing black and blue on top of the project, actually. And why I can do that, instead I made a kind of mix on the light one, is because of the gesso. So I have more open time to kind of mix, match, play with the color here than on top of paper where it gets absorbed right away. Then a little bit of drying again, sorry. I didn't do any splashes to this one, I just realized. Not that they are going to be that visible, but still, they need to be there. If you ever have a problem with stamps and the ink kind of sticking to clear stamps, especially the water-based, tend to kind of just, how do you say it? Well, they don't cover the stamp totally, it's just a little bit of dots. 2 tips. I normally use tip number 1, so that one I know that works. Ink your stamp with permanent ink and let it dry to the stamp. As you can see, I don't clean my stamps. So it depends how you treat them as well. But that's a tip. Kind of make it more suitable for the ink stamps, because the clear stamps are usually so smooth, so the ink has nothing to stick onto in there. Or then the other ones, hey Helena, then the other one is to use embossing ink or watermark ink, so clear ink before you add the color. So that might help from the ink to kind of pool on top of the stamp. The other way, because usually those are the water-reactive, water-based inks, is to use it in your advantage. Just add a little bit of water there and it's perfect. They get more resistant. Yeah, resistant. Yeah, what she said, what Linda said. Sorry, I'm lost for words again. But yeah, that's the way to use them in a watercolor effect. But if you want a smooth, kind of detailed stamping, then that's an idea. While I was babbling, and it's not focused again, no. While I was babbling, you could see me just stamp away. Hi Nettan! This time I used the blue ink, and let's move the other one. It's kind of just adding a little bit more and kind of going around the edge, kind of blending it, if you say, and also bringing the contrast near to the focal point. If you're just joining in, I'm doing 2 art journal pages because some of you wished the light one and some dark, and I couldn't say no, so I'm doing both. But it's the same techniques. So far for the page I'm doing, I have done adhering a piece of pattern paper to my journal. Then to the dark one I added a little bit of white gesso to the area where my focal point is going to be. And to the light one I did nothing of sorts. Then I added some unicorn paste through a stencil, let that one dry, added watercolor on top so it resisted the gel underneath, and now I'm adding stamping just haphazardly, going around and around the same area I already have going. The other tip is, well, if you watched my lives or my videos, then you already know this. And oh, well, it's not like I'm the only one using it, but I hardly ever mount my stamp. Even if I'm doing a bit of text, I usually just try a couple of times if I don't get it right. If it's the last thing I'm doing to a project, kind of adding a sentiment to a card, then I usually use a stamping tool, that one with a hinge, to really get it right. But otherwise I'm just using my stamps because I hardly ever want, for example, this pattern as a square to anywhere. So if I would put it on top of an acrylic block, then I would need to press it totally, or then just ink it somewhat. So it's easier for me to ink it totally and then just press little pieces of it to the background, and that creates the lovely kind of flowing effect rather than just stamped stamp. Naturally, if you're doing an embellishment, you probably want everything to be visible, but in a background technique I always use it like that, just going around. Then here's the light version. The black version is in this journal, I think. So I can't open it right now. I use this one as the backing of my focal point, and it's not stamped, but you could maybe do a composition of the little ones, but it's from the same pad I had as my background, from the Darcel. It's here. Let me try to find here. I've just cut that one out, and it's a perfect embellishment or layer to be used for the photo, which is then here. And this one is an Art Daily sticker, which I then put on top of a cardstock so I can layer this one with foam dots. Then before adding those, let's add our self-made washi. Tiny scissors for fussy cutting. It's my must-have tool, says Lynette. Yeah, I use scissors as well. I've seen people use a craft knife, but, well, it's more likely that I end up with a band-aid with the craft knife than a perfectly cut embellishment, so I use scissors. If you're new to fussy cutting, so cutting the little pieces, it's always, or at least I find it handier, that I turn the paper and the scissors stay place, as I need to cut the other typewriter. Then you can see how I do it. I'm just layering our self-made washi tape, and the self-made, if you're joining in, then this is just painter's tape, masking tape, which I stamped, and now I can use it in my journal. I'm creating kind of a horizontal composition using these because, for example, well, this is kind of a vertical element, as well as here's the stripes, and also the composition is kind of vertical. Can you see, by the way, anything? Should I put the light on? Because it was, or still is, light on the outside, but it looks so dark in the photo. Maybe I'll ask Thank you, Helena. Siis kiitoksia. Ihan suomeksikin voisi sanoa. Kentsu, viittikö laittaa valon päälle? I do have a light here, but it seems that it's a bit dark. Maybe a little bit better. Like so, we need another typewriter for the other page. So as you can see, I'm wiggling the paper in my hand. Whoopsie daisy. And the scissors are just staying in place. Because if you would move the scissors, then your whole arm is doing the work, not just a teeny tiny bit of your hand. And also you end up in all sorts of funny contortionist kind of situations with that. I should need another photo also, but maybe I'll finish it afterwards, because I think you get the idea anyway. There's not that much trick for the finishing touches, it's just thread. For the light one I wanted something a bit darker, kind of creating contrast, because otherwise it was looking so light and the dark typewriter just popped a bit too much from the background. So I used dark blue-ish thread, and as you can see I don't adhere it anyway, because this one is going to be the item that's adhering it to the background. Because I find it, if you use something light and fluffy like thread, if you really glue it down, it loses its fluffiness. It's not as soft and sweet anymore. So I'm just adhering the foam dots to the cut out typewriter. And then these foam dots, as they go on top of the thread cluster, they adhere, the thread also to the background. So it will stay in my journal even though it's not completely secured. Then let's put our self-made little embellishment there, and then let's use some thread underneath here as well, kind of keeping the two clusters resembling each other. It's not now wanting to work with me. Stay. Again, just a couple of foam dots on top. To keep it in place. Like so. And then I have the same somewhere here, which we can use to make a little statement near the photo. This is from the same Art Daily stamp set, a little sentiment, own your story. If you don't have stamps, naturally you can use your old own typewriter to make this, or then Art Daily stickers. But as my kind of idea behind it was to use stamps in a number of ways, then stamping it was the thing. Let's adhere that one to the photo. Whoopsie daisy. Straight, preferably. And this embellishment here, just peeking underneath. And then let's adhere the photo with foam dots. If you want to be frugal, you can naturally use just pieces of cardboard box for the dimensional layers. It doesn't have to be foam dots. Or pieces of chipboard. Here we go. Then I think I didn't cut any of the smaller pointing fingers. Let's do that one quickly so I can actually finish this page. What about, do you still want to see me finish the dark page? Are you sticking around for that? Because, well, naturally you can leave if you want to, because it's the same thing, just a different color of the thread, but otherwise the same idea as with this one. So here's the light one. Let me show you a close-up. And then you said yes please, so let's do the other one. So here we have our own washi tape style thingy. For the black one I wanted a little bit more color, so I chose this vibrant pink thread. It actually went better with the other one because there was the rose pattern, but I think it will go here as well. Give a little bit of color, something to pop. And now well, there's the end. As you can see, I just built a little kind of nest for the typewriter. I'm normally a really speedy crafter, so normally if this wouldn't secure the thread underneath, I would use just maybe 4 of foam dots, but as it's now kind of securing the thread as well, so I add a little bit of extra dots because of that. Again, if you have any questions, I say that many times and then I forget to watch the chat, really. But I do come back every time. If you have any questions, I go through every comment afterwards and then answer if there's something. Like so. I really like Prima papers because they have perfect background motifs, but also motifs for layering. So when you get a one pad, you get a bunch of different options with it. You don't just have to use it for backgrounds or for layering, but you get everything in the same package. So, and because it's from the same pad, same collection, everything is again matchy. Not that everything should be, but well, I just work that way. I love a coherent kind of color palette that everything goes together. I'm really bad at doing something with contrasting colors. I love when other people use it. It's so fresh and bright, and when I try to do it, it's it's not just me. It's terrible when I try to do it. But it's kind of good that you know your limitations and you know what fits you. What do you mount the masking tape on to stamp the design on it? I use just packaging. This is just clear packaging. But if you have a non-stick surface like craft mat, that's perfect. Or even on top of glass, anything that it doesn't stick that well to. So if you use paper, then it will tear, even though painter's tape is usually designed that it's then removable. But if you have something kind of really non-stick surface, that's perfect. What was I doing? Let's cut this one out, and then I need to find a new photo. Naturally, you could just stamp it on the roll as well, because the tape doesn't stick to itself. But then you have to work on top of a curved surface. If your stamp is unmount, like mine almost always are, it's not a problem, because then you can warp. There's actually some ink. Warp the design around. But if you want a smooth, flat surface, then just a piece of packaging, any kind of plastic, glass, that's fine. So I went missing for a while to get these. This one. Yeah, it's actually Aline's tacky glue. For paper crafting purposes, I usually use that one. If I'm doing a bigger project or want to do collaging, then I use the Finneber mediums. But for cards, scrapbook pages, journaling, little embellishments, then I use that one, because it's in a good jar with a fine little nozzle. Naturally, if you have a spare little jar, you can put, for example, the matte gel to a little squeezer bottle. But I find that one handy for little adhering needs. But when I'm doing dimensional things, then it needs to be Finneber's gel medium, the 3D version. A little bit smaller so it doesn't cover everything. Here we go. And then I need to have the little teeny tiny paper clip still. There's a story behind the paper clip. As you can see, it's tattooed in my arm, on my arm, sorry. And that's because my blog's name is Paperiliitin, which in Finnish means a paper clip. So that's why, if I want a little bit just a teeny tiny touch of something, I usually go for a paper clip. And just this in place. Thank you, I love my tattoo as well. It's one of 3. There. And then the pointing finger. My other one is here. Because both of my daughters were born before the, well, not due date, but before time, and they were so teeny tiny, so I was afraid that my wedding ring would hurt them when I was giving them a bath and stuff. So when they were small, I ended up not using my wedding ring, and then after they got bigger, it just felt weird. Like, it was less than a year before my older daughter was born when we got married, so somehow it didn't feel needed anymore. But as I still wanted to show that I'm married, then I got a tattoo ring. And then the final detail. So here we go. This one is done as well. So here's the sample page of the light one. I'm sorry. Ooh. The light version we did now. And then where did I put the dark version? Is it here perhaps? At least I remember going through this because you weren't supposed to see all of this. And here's the dark version of the sample page and the one we did now. So again, same techniques and the same composition, but still the mood in the two are totally different. So knowing your colors, knowing your color theory is also a good thing. And well, then you can break it, because well, if you have some kind of knowledge of color theory, then you probably know kind of why something didn't work the way you wanted to. But to me, that's, even though people say that that should be kind of the base of everything, but probably because I go matchy-matchy, to me that doesn't play such a huge role, and I don't think about that much of it. It's more like going with my intuition, because that's the way I craft. But maybe knowing kind of how dark tones affect you as a viewer versus light tones and what kind of mood they give, maybe that's a good thing, or then a bad thing. It's the beauty of art journaling. You didn't just do anything. So enough about babbling. Thank you so much for coming today. If there's any questions, just leave them here and I'll go after them after the show, answering them. And you can always tag me in Instagram or in Facebook or email me or whatever. Yeah, because sometimes people are kind of afraid to email, but for example, to me you can always email if you have any questions or any ideas about my projects, or you want to ask something. So just go ahead. Thank you so much for coming. There's going to be a recording if you're just joining in, and well, I'll see you in a month or so. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye bye.